Tasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Saturday and Sunday Sri Harinam Chintamani series. Yesterday we began with the 15th chapter of Sri Harinam Chintamani. If you remember, we discussed a little bit of the overview back again. Sambandha, Avidaya, and Prayojan, how Prayojan is being discussed in chapter 15 more specifically. We also saw the overview based on the definition of Uttama Bhakti. It's not an exact watertight classification, but definitely Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, where there is Nam Ras, is chapter 15. And then we discussed the few verses of the Mangalacharan here. And now, how Mahaprabhu is requesting, first of all, he glorifies Haridas Thakur that, you, by our devotional service, you have all the knowledge of this universe and all the Vedas dance on your tongue. And I see all final truths in your words. So what are the final truths? About Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, or about the Lord, Ishwar, Jiva, Maya, then Nam, Namabhas, and the Aparads. Everything is there. All these knowledge is there. Swayam eva spurit ada. So that's what Mahaprabhu glorifies. And we saw some of the most important points from the slides. Most important, what we focused is that knowledge, Vidya Vadu Jivanam, the holy name, gives transcendental knowledge. It doesn't mean that we don't go and hear from the spiritual masters on the Vaishnavas about bhakti literatures. Yes, both have to be done. And with the purification of the heart, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, will happen. So we also went into the Nam Ras, because Nam Ras is what is going to be discussed uh, uh, in chapter 15. And in that context, we discussed Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, a little bit about the ingredients of rasa: Stahi Bhav, Vibhav, Anubhav, Sanchari Bhav, and Satviki Bhav, how all together combine and give rise to rasa. So we did some exercises also. And the point here, this slide we discussed yesterday, is that rasa or the Stahi Bhav is manifested at the Apana Dasha stage. At the Apana Dasha stage, we understand our constitutional position. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, or Ai Nand Tanuja Kinkara Patitam Vam, that Shikshashtam verse. And then the rasa, the Stahi Bhav of the sadhaka, who is now Siddha, is revealed, whether it is Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. But he has been cultivating it from practically the Varandasha. The Varandasha is where one is attached to Krishna Katha, one is at the stage of Nishta. From Nishta, you go on to Smarandasha, where Ruchi and Asakti stages are there. So your remembrance of Krishna is continuous. And in Apandasha, you are at the stage of Bhava, where your attraction towards Krishna is almost like 99% or 95%, whatever you may say. So we are where? We are in which dasha? Anyone would like to speak? Which dasha we are in now? Anyone? Which dasha we are? Where are we exactly? Dasha means state, not das or das. Okay. Yes, Sunita Mataji.
Shravana Dasha.
Shravana Dasha. We are in Shravan Dasha, and our Shravan is also not steady. It is unsteady. We are in the Anishtita Bhajan Kriya. So we should repeatedly, regularly, day after day, month after month, year after year, hear and develop that taste for hearing Krishna Katha. We become attached to Krishna Katha that we can't live without Krishna Katha. We can't live without Krishna Katha. So that's the stage we should come to. And then slowly the progress happens. So it takes 10-15 years. I'm just giving a rough understanding. It can take more also, it can take less also. But many years we should hear about Krishna Katha, we should study about Krishna Katha, Krishna Tattva. And then slowly the subject matter will become clear. So these Nam Ras will manifest at the stage of Apandasha. And this is what is being discussed in 15th chapter. And I explained that this is a stage of Bhava. This is in one state, in one, from one angle, if you see Shravan Dasha is steady hearing, that is Nishta. Varan Dasha is more of attachment. Then from here, Ruchi Asakti stages, Bhava stage, and this is Prema stage. So these are the different dashas. So let us now go to the next verses of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Text 5 and 6. Nama Rasa Jigyasa. The desire to know about the nectar of the holy name. We have seen, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. You heard, Tattva Jigyasa. But Nam Rasa Jigyasa is being spoken here. This. And we had a little bit overview of the Nam, the science of Rasa, in yesterday's discussion. The desire to know the nectar of the holy name. Ehvesh Pashta Bolo Bala Nama Rasa Ki Prakar Ki Rupe Labiye Jivataha Adhikar. Please describe the nectar of the holy name. Spashta Bala Nama Rasa Ki Prakar, and how the conditioned soul ki rupe, labive, can become qualified to taste that nectar. Jivataha adhikar. How can the jiva become qualified to uh, have this nam ras? Yesterday, if you remember, we were discussing that the jiva cannot live without rasa. The jiva in this world, he is tasting the perverted rasas, both the worldly rasa, the parthiva rasa, and the mental rasas in the form of relationships in this world. Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and Dasya. And in the spiritual world, the jiva is tasting the pure spiritual rasa, the Vaikuntha rasa. So the jiva cannot live without rasa. हरिदास महाप्रेमे करे निवेदन तुम्हार प्रेरणा बोले करिबे वर्णन. With great love, Haridas said, Haridas Mahapreme Kare Nivedan. O Lord, by your inspiration, Tumhara Prerna, Bale. Bale means Bal means strength. By your strength and inspiration, Karibe Varnan, I shall describe. So there are two verses. Let us see some of the points from the PowerPoint. How can we become eligible to receive Namras? Because Namras is Jigyasa is being done by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now. He did so many Jigyasas before. Namatat was Jigyasa in the beginning chapters, 3 chapters. Then Jigyasa about Dashanama Prad was there. And now at the end, after the Dashanama Prad discussion, it is Seva Aparad Jigyasa. And in this chapter, it is the Nama Rasa Jigyasa. To answer this question, we must first become acquainted with the spiritual through uninterrupted connection with Shabda Brahman, emanating from the spiritual world via hearing and chanting. This is made possible. So, if you are very much jigyasa of taking namras, you have adhikar. But for every adhikar, you have to pay the price. To go into an IIT, you have to many years prepare for the exam, write the entrance, and become qualified to enter IIT. So to qualify for understanding Namras, you have to chant uninterruptedly the Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma is the transcendental vibration, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in one sense. And continuously hear the Vaikuntha Katha. Savay Mana Krishna Padaravindo Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu. Vachamsi Vaikuntha. The speech is used to always glorify Vaikuntha, the Lord of the Vaikuntha, like that. We should become acquainted with this. The Sambandha and Abhideya of chanting has been described throughout this book. And in this chapter, the goal of chanting, the prayojan, rasa, will be described. So when I gave the overview, I mentioned this is again a broad classification of how first 3 chapters are Sambandha, and the next Dashanama Prada are Abhideya, and then now this 15th chapter is Prayojan, Ras. To achieve the final goal of life, we must turn our back on the material world and fix our sights on attaining the Lord and nothing else via repeated connection with the holy name. The devotee learns to taste a relationship with the Lord in the Madhurya Ras. Madhurya Ras is the most prominent. That's what the highest is, which Mahaprabhu has come to give. So that's why it is Madhurya Ras has been mentioned here. Instructions on how to achieve this and details of the spiritual world are not to be taken as mundane. They are divinely inspired. Hence, Srila Haridas Thakur stated that whatever he would speak would be inspired by the Lord himself. Tomara prerna, by your inspiration, I'm going to speak. So these are not any mundane instructions. They are divinely inspired by the Lord, and it is coming from the divine realm. The same goes for all who give guidance from the liberated platform. When an advanced person gives the purport of a statement, such as Srila Prabhupada gives with the statements of Sri Krishna and the great sages. So when Srila Prabhupada is writing his purports, he is giving the statements of Krishna and all the previous acharyas. Such a person gives the essence of that statement along with an explanation via elaborating on the source material using his fund of experiential knowledge gathered from the authoritative sources of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So Prabhupada in his Bhaktivedanta purports, you see, Prabhupada follows the previous acharyas and according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, according to Jiva Goswami, and Prabhupada is giving his own personal realizations. That's why Prabhupada said his Bhaktivedanta purports are his personal ecstasies. So when we study especially Bhagavatam, we don't find it. We are struggling hard to understand what is being spoken in the purports. But as we repeatedly study and get the Siddhanta, philosophical truths clear, then we start experiencing that personal ecstasy. When a devotee receives realization, it is known as the mercy of the Lord. It is the mercy of the Lord. That's why Krishna repeatedly in the Gita, he says, Jnanam Vijnana. I will give you Jnana and the realization. Sahitam. Many times in the Gita it will come. This mercy is the message that the Lord wishes to convey to all, the message of God. This message is revealed within the heart during meditation. So many devotees want answers for their questions, and they think just, I'll go and ask someone and I will hear the answer and immediately I'll understand. No, sometimes it can take a long time for us to really understand what is the answer. It requires that we hear, we contemplate deeply, and then the realization of the understanding of that statement, which is an answer, we might understand it. So that's why there's Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. These are the components of education. Shravana means to hear, Manana means to contemplate. We have to contemplate what we have heard. And Nididhyasana means going into deep meditation and trying to really understand the answer. So we know the famous uh, Archimedes Principle, Archimedes, scientist, who found out the buoyancy principle. When he was given the problem, he was so much absorbed in the meditation about that problem. And suddenly by inspiration, it is actually the Lord inspires to give these answers. Tadami Buddhi Augamtam happens to even scientists because they are contemplating on matter. So Krishna reveals, Ye yatamam prapadyante. And Eureka, Eureka, he was so much in ecstasy, he got the answer. He ran from the bathroom straight away to the king. He was completely, oblivious that he was not wearing anything. So he was such, in a level of consciousness that he forgot to cover himself also. So he was constantly meditating. So, we expect that, I'll hear and, I'll try to argue and understand it immediately and we go into a long argument. But, I really don't understand now. Let me deeply sit and meditate. This should be our mood. And only then the message is revealed in the heart. I don't know whether I explained in this forum when Bhumi Devi, along with Lord Brahma and all the Devtas, went to the Shir Sagar, they offered the Purusha Shukta prayers. And then there was no response. Then Brahma sat in meditation and the message was relayed. Prabhupada says this is the Parampara System. In the Krishna book, first chapter, it is there. So we reach the Lord through prayers. And when we sit in meditation, the Lord reciprocates or answers our prayers. So similarly, we should hear the transcendental message from the exalted souls, and then contemplate and then deeply meditate what must be the answer. And then when we meditate, the Lord reciprocates. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam. The process of hearing this message is called Shravanam. First is hearing. To give guidance, the Lord speaks through either through his representative or through the supersoul feature, the Antaryami. So where in the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that he can speak through the Antaryami? Anyone knows which verse? Which verse in the Gita Krishna says that I speak directly to the Antaryami? Okay, what about others? Anyone else would like to try? Yes, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, it is Tesham Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi. Is that one,
Yes,
Prabhu?
yes, that's a verse. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. It doesn't mean that because, oh, Krishna can directly speak through the heart, I will not take instructions from the spiritual master. No. After one has purified to a very high degree, then the spiritual master is, the Chaitya Guru who is there inside is externally manifested as the spiritual master. There's no difference. So that's why we should, it doesn't mean that we don't go through the representative. It will be another extreme. Now, once this message has been transmitted and accepted within the heart of the devotee, it is known as Vigyan. So that's what I mentioned. Gyan and Vigyan, Krishna is speaking in the Gita many times. Once Vigyan has been received, the devotee has a duty to propound this message, and this is known as Kirtana. So Shravan, Prabhupada says, Shravan and Kirtana are the progressive paths for spiritual life, for spiritual understanding. Shravan means to hear, and after you have understood the message, when you understand it, then you speak. Because when you speak to others, if you yourself have not understood it, you cannot speak. So we should begin with this Shravan Kirtan process. Kirtanam can be classified as glorifying the Lord using sound vibration or in written form. Similarly, Shravan may be hearing or reading. So if we are inattentive in our hearing, inattentive in our reading, that is also an offense. Yes? Yes or no? How many of you say yes or no? You can type. How many of you feel like that? Yes or no, you can type. One second, I just want to refer one Bhagavatam verse. Yes. Okay. Let me see the response. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone has said yes. Okay, excellent. So look at this purport. Shunvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanah Ridhantasto hi abhadrani vidanoti suritsatam. Shunvatam. Shunvatam means not just hearing, one who has developed the urge to hear the Lord's own words. Punya Shravana Kirtana. And then in the heart, the Lord who is seated in the heart will eradicate all the anarthas, abhadras. Prabhupada is saying here, messages of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna are not different from it. They are not different from it. And Prabhupada in one purport says that actually, one can see in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam Krishna. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, do we see Krishna? What is the reason? Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of the God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. So here in this second statement, what is Prabhupada saying? Anyone? What is Prabhupada saying? Anyone? Yes, Maya Narsimha Prabhuji.
Does it mean, Prabhuji, Krishna is non-different from his sound vibration?
Krishna is non-different from his sound vibration. Then why don't we don't realize when we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or when we read the pages of Bhagavatam? Why don't we see that or realize it?
Because of anarthas, Prabhuji, which are
What
covering the
Prabhupada is saying here in this statement? What is the exact term he has used?
offenseless hearing.
Yes, offenseless hearing. That was my point. So if you are hearing also and if you are not attentive while hearing Krishna Katha, it is offensive hearing in fact. And similarly, if when you chant Namabhas, you will realize Krishna is not different from his holy name. And because we are chanting Namaprad, we don't realize it. It's that simple. So only at the stage of Namabhas, we realize that the holy name is non-different from Krishna. And we will be always attentive in Namabhas. But when we're in Namaprad stage, our attention goes here and there. So this is the point I wanted to just make because it's very important here. If a person receives this message from the great devotees and does not propound the message contained within that mercy, such a person is known as Kripanath. Miser. He's a miser. A miserly person takes but does not give. Therefore, he blocks the divine flow of energy instead of being a via medium for Krishna's desire. So it's natural that one who has realized Krishna, the glory of Krishna, and he will propagate it. Spiritual energy comes through the living force and must then be passed on. This energy is called the Bhakti Swarupam Shakti of the Lord. It's the Bhakti Shakti of the Lord. The difference between a spiritualist and a materialist is that one is magnanimous and the other is miserly. A representative of Lord Krishna works 24 hours a day to serve the Lord. In the early hours of the morning, a devotee meditates on the holy name of the Lord and the Lord's intimate pastimes in Sri Vrindavan Dham. In the beginning, the devotee's chanting is for his own purification, but in the end, it is for the pleasure of the Lord and is known as devotion. So we are chanting for our own purification, that we are very clear. But how many of us think that let me chant for Krishna's pleasure? So their devotional service begins. The holy name therefore both purifies and reveals the devotee's eternal service as a part of the Lord's Chit Shakti. In this way, the devotee's meditations become the basis of his service. This is known as Nam Ras. During the daylight hours, a devotee serves the Lord by propagating the essence of the scriptures. Oh, Vedesha, it should be, sorry. Vedesha Sarver Ahameva Vedu. By all the Vedas, the Lord is to be known. In the sleeping hours, when the common man is engrossed in ignorance of deep slumber, the devotee of the Lord is busy on the unseen realms, giving guidance and blessings to all who seek his counsel. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once, night 2 o'clock, got up from his Chaitanya Mutt in Mayapur, and he was walking out. One of the disciples followed, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went nearby some tree, and he was giving Gaur Katha to the Devatas. So 24 hours, Uttamadhikari is completely engaged like this. The mercy of the devotee is essential to all, for it is by the grace of the spiritual master that we can cross over the endless ocean of birth and death. In this way, the devotee's meditations become the basis of his. Oh, this is repeated, I think. Okay. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances to our spiritual masters who constantly look after our welfare, to the past acharyas, and to all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, headed by Sri Rupa Sanatana, Raghunatha Bhatta, Srila Raghunath Dasa, Srila Jiva, and Gopal Bhatt Goswamis. We especially thank Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Haridas Thakur for their guidance and blessings, and we are eternally indebted to the most magnanimous Panchatattva headed by Nityananda and Lord Gaurasudhar. So the acharyas, their samadhis, which are here in Vrindavan and Navdeep, they can give guidance to us. They can contact us if we seek their blessings. So the acharyas are always living. They are there in the transcendental abode, but they are accessible to those sincere souls who seek their blessings. So the samadhis of the acharyas are very important. In fact, in the holy places, we should visit all temples, but especially we should chant where the acharya samadhis are. Srila Prabhupada made his home when he took sannyas, Radha Damodar, where all the samadhis of all the Vaishnava acharyas there. There are 64 samadhis there, and especially our acharya Srila Rupa Goswami. May our lives be the glory of their education and blessings, and may we always be engaged in their service life after life. May whatever we say be divinely inspired as we place our open hearts in their hands. Okay, so few points were there from the slides. What is going to come up? Now let us see the next verses. Rasa Tattva. I think I have to share the screen. So now, Nam Ras is what Mahaprabhu wanted to know, and Haridas Thakur is now going to speak about Rasa Tattva. So from text 7 to 10, he speaks about Rasa Tattva. Shuddha Tattva Paratattva Yei Vastu Siddha Rasa Name Sarva Vede Tahai Prasiddha. The perfect supreme truth, Shuddha Tattva Paratattva, who is situated in pure goodness. Shuddha Tattva, he is situated in transcendental goodness, is famous in the Vedas, known by the name Rasa, nectar. A Vastu Siddhi, Rasa Name Sarva Vede Taha Prasiddha. He is known by Rasa. Okay, here is a footnote. Let us see. The rasas, mellows described in ordinary books of material rhetoric are not true rasas. This is, mundane rasa of the poets about, Romeo, Juliet, or whatever it is here in this world. These are not real, true rasas. They are only perfected reflections of true rasas. Beyond the 24 material rasas are the spiritual rasas, which are situated in pure goodness. They are true rasas. The transcendentalist who takes pleasure in spiritual life relishes only the wonderful variety of taste in the spiritual rasas. Rasas far beyond all that is material. Anything but the spiritual rasas, they consider dry and tasteless. The spiritual rasas situated in pure goodness are eternal rasas. So yesterday we already introduced this concept of Rasa Tattva, the Stahi Bhav, our eternal rasa with Krishna, Sakya, Dasya, Vatsalya or Madhurya. These are all eternal and ever expanding, and there is no question of breaking, because it is the soul rasa with the supreme soul, and the soul is eternal. The supreme soul is also eternal. So the Vedas he's known in the Vedas by the name Rasa. Now a small exercise. Where in the Vedas, now specifically in the Vedas, when it refers to the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, or in the Upanishads. So where the Lord is known as Rasa? Anyone knows any quotations you can give? So many devotees know Krishna by the name. Krishna is having the name as Rasa from our Gaudiya scriptures. But where in the Vedas or in the Upanishads, the Lord is known by the name Rasa? Anyone knows? Anyone can give any quotation, scriptural quotation for it? Anyone can try? Okay, I'll give a hint. It is in the Taittiriya Upanishads. Anyone would like to try? Which is the verse where the Lord is known by the name Rasa? Anyone would like to try? You have all heard this verse. Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Dhanut Pranam Prabhuji. I don't know the answer, but I'll just try. In Bhagavad Gita, the shlok Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya.
Oh, that is okay. In a different context, it is mentioned of the material elements here. Okay. Shushil Radhika Mataji has raised her hand. Okay, let us ask her first. Okay. Yes. Which verse do you feel? I have unmuted you. Okay. Madan Deshpande Prabhuji had raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji.
नाम चिंतामणि कृष्ण चैतन्य रस विग्रह पूर्ण शुद्ध नित्य मुक्त बिंदत्वम नाम नामिनो.
Oh, wonderful. That is from the Puranas, Padma Puran. So it is from the Padma Puran. Nama Chintamani Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Nitya Mukta Purna Shuddho Abhinnatvam Nama Namina. Wonderful, wonderful. There is one from the Taittiriya Upanishads which I am looking for. Okay, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji, something like Rasavai Saha, something.
Yes. This is the verse. Raso Vaisa. Raso Vaisa. He is Rasa. And Rasam hi evayam labda anandi bhavati. When the Jiva attains Rasa with the Lord, that means he is situated in any of these four rasas, then anandi bhavati. He will experience spiritual bliss. This is the verse from the Taittiriya Upanishads. And in our Gaudiya literatures, we have the name of Krishna as Rasa as Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He is a Rasa Amrita. That Rasa is Amrita. It is eternal. It is nectar. Murti. Murti means form. Akhila. Akhila means all the rasas. All the 12 rasas. He is a personification. Krishna, just like you make a murti of a stone or a murti of a cake or a black candle. So Krishna is made of what? A murti of Akhila Rasa Amrita Murti. And Krishna is known by various names, by Rasa, Rasika Shekhar, Rasa Raj, Ras Bihari. So like that. So the Vedas is famous as Rasa. Say Akhanda Rasa Para Brahma Tattva Ananta Ananda Dhama Charama Mahatva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has limitless nectar, Akhanda Rasa. He is the abode of limitless bliss, Ananta Ananda Dham. He is the most glorious. Charama means the pinnacle or the peak, Mahatva. That Parabrahma Tattva is limitless nectar and limitless bliss, and he is the most glorious. Shakti Shaktiman Rupe Visheshatahaya Bhedanayi Bheda Samadarshane Te Bhaya he is manifest as the potency, Shakti, and the master of potency, Shaktiman. These two are not different, or they are non-different. They are at once different and the same. So we were all thinking we are going to study Nam Ras, but Nama Tattva, or the philosophy, is being explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in these verses. So potency means Shakti, and potency comes from whom? Potent. There is potent and the potency. And Prabhupada is using these terms in the Bhagavatam. Some of the purports you can find potency and potent. So the potency is Shakti and the potent is Shaktiman. So from the Shaktiman, the Shakti is manifest. And there is no difference between the two. They are one, simultaneously one and different. So anyone can quote a verse from the Puranas where it is mentioned, or there is an example given to explain this Shaktiman and Shakti, how they are one and different. Anyone knows? That's why Tattva is very important for us to understand if you want to know Rasa. Anyone? I'll give a hint also. It is from the Vishnu Puran. And many times you have read in the Prabhupada purports, in the Gita, in the Bhagavatam, in the Ishopanishads, where an example is given to explain the potency and potent. Yes, Amal Bhakti Rani Mataji.
Prabhuji, the sun and the sunshine, the
Yes,
example.
sun and the sunshine, but exactly one verse in the Vishnu Puran speaks about fire and heat and light. So fire is the potent, Shaktiman, and fire emanates heat and light. So heat and light are the Shaktis of fire. The Shaktiman is fire and heat and light are the Shaktis. So they exist simultaneously and there is non-difference. There cannot be fire and you cannot say that there is no heat or there is no light. It is not possible. So when you are experiencing the heat, it's because of the fire. So in that sense, there is non-difference, but there is a difference also. So that's why they are simultaneously one and different. You cannot say heat, you cannot equate heat to fire. The source of heat is fire, and the energy of fire is manifested in the form of heat. So there is Shakti and Shaktiman. So like that, philosophical truths have to be understood. So once I'd given a talk in one company. It was a manufacturing unit. So basic Bhagavad Gita, ABCD, ABCD we say, but it is highly philosophical. We gave a class on that. And one of the Matajis came to me and asked, there are so many, other preachers from the Abrahamic religion, and they say that, Krishna enjoyed with so many girls, and so we also can marry, and all this kind of things, they propagate this. So I had to give an answer. I said, forget about seeing the pastimes, understand it is Shakti and Shaktiman. It is Shakti and Shaktiman. So it's not Krishna and gopis. You have to understand from the philosophical truth, it is Shakti and Shaktiman. So it is his own energies and he's enjoying his own energies. So they are energies. So we caught up in the bodily concept of life, we think male and female, but it is Shakti and Shaktiman. That's why in the Upanishads and in the Gita, Purusha. Purusha means enjoyer. And Purusha, what he enjoys? He enjoys his Shaktis. He enjoys his Shaktis. So that's what here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is now beginning the Rasa Tattva discussion with the philosophical discussion first. Shaktimana Sudurlaksha Shakti Prakashini Triveda Shaktira Kriya Vishwa Vikasini. From the master of potencies, many inconceivable potencies are manifested. The Shaktiman, from him come inconceivable, many inconceivable. Even the Jiva Tattva is inconceivable for us. And the Maya Shakti is inconceivable for us. So there are unlimited Shaktis which come. Employing three kinds of potencies, he manifests this world. Manifests this world. So, which are the three potencies by which he manifests this world? Anyone knows? Can raise their hand. We will discuss now these points in the slides. Yes, Maya Narsingh Prabhuji.
Is it Sambit, Sandhini and Ladini, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. Yes. Okay, fine. So I'll just finish the points on the PowerPoint for this. Okay. So we started a little late, so I'll just take 10 minutes more and finish the points. Now the concept of rasa, the rasa tattva is being discussed. We are discussing only two verses, 7 and 8 now. 9 and 10, we can discuss. I don't think so. Let us see how it goes. Rasa cannot take place without the Ladini Shakti. So there is a Sandhini potency, Samvit potency, the Ladini Shakti. So Rasa is, Ladini Shakti of the Lord. And the personification of Ladini Shakti is Srimati Radharani. The repository of the Ladini energy is Srimati Radharani. Devotee, knowing this, a devotee seeks permission to enter into the spiritual exchanges by begging at the door of Srimati Radharani. Hara is the name of Radha, and Hare is the name spoken when calling on the female energy of the Lord. Hare is Sambodhan. Hara is Striling. Striling means masculine and feminine. Feminine it is. So Hara is referring to Radharani and Hare is the Sambodhan. And we are calling the energy of the Lord. That is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra what we are chanting. Dear Lord, you are the supreme enjoyer and I am an insignificant fallen soul. Although I understand Radha to be none other than you, the Supreme Person, I also understand that you have expanded yourself for the purpose of enjoyment. That one has become two in order to have loving reciprocations. So we also in this world, why does a person get married? Prabhupada in one Bhagavad Gita lecture says, because he feels incomplete. And that's why, he cannot expand himself, but he has to marry another jiva in the form of female. And they want to have loving reciprocations. That's why we married. So we go outside ourselves. We cannot manifest ourselves and expand ourselves into a female form and have loving reciprocations. So we get married. But Krishna, he from his internal potency manifests. Srimati Radharani manifests from the heart, in fact, of Krishna. And both are one. But for loving exchanges, they have become Radha and Krishna. Dearly wanting to taste the sweetness of Radha's love, you took birth in the holy land of Sri Navdeep to enact your transcendental pastimes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this incarnation as Gaur Sundar, you taste the divine mellow of Prem Ras and then distribute the remnants which are non-different from the divine substance Krishna Prem. Seeing that No one was qualified to receive your merciful benediction. You decided to freely give it up to the most fallen of all sinners who otherwise would have drowned in the ocean of godlessness and selfishness. What a mercy Mahaprabhu is giving to the most fallen souls in Kali Yuga, the highest rasa. Our relationship is that you are the most magnanimous and I am the most fallen. Yesterday I was speaking in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu class. Jagannath is Patita Pavan. Yes, Jagannath is Patita Pavan. Then why don't we, get the mercy of Jagannath then? If Jagannath is Patita Pavan, what is the reason? Anyone can think about? If Jagannath is Patita Pavan, he purifies even the most Patita, then why don't we get the mercy? What is the reason? Anyone? Anyone would like to try? I'll have to ask some devotees now. Satyavrat Chaitanya Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, what I think is the form of Jagannath, he is ready to take the people into his arms and deliver. Is it?
Okay. Yes, exactly. It has to do with the word patita. Okay, Shushil Radhika Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. I think because we don't think ourselves that we are fallen.
Yes, that's the answer. We don't think that we are fallen. And that's why Narottam Das Thakur is singing in his bhajans. Mosama patita nai pae tribhuvana. He's saying you will not find, more fallen than me. Gauranga karuna koro dina hina jani. Mosama patita prabhu nahi tribhuvani. Dante trinadhari gaura Dakiye amar, kripa karo esho amar, hridaya mandire, yadi daya na karibe, patita dekiya, patita pavana nama, kisher lagiya. This bhajan of Narottam Das Thakur should be recited every day. Gauranga karuna karo. Gauranga has come to give this prem ras. Gauranga karo karna dina hina jane. Ami dina hina jane. Whom Gauranga will give karuna? One who thinks himself very, very humble. Osama patita prabhu nai tribhuvane. Narottam Das Thakur is actually feeling that I am the most fallen in these 3 planetary systems. Entire 14 planetary systems. Yadi daya na karibe. If you don't show mercy upon it, patita dekya, seeing that I'm so fallen, patita pavana nam. How will be your name? How will you substantiate your name, patita pavan? So like that, Narottam Das Thakur is saying. So our relationship always, when we go to Jagannath to pray, we should, oh Jagannath, you are patita pavan, and I am the most fallen. That is my relation between me and you. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says in one of his bhajan. Please consider me a candidate for your mercy and engage me in service of your devotees. This is our rasa. We should not think about higher rasas, in Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. Our rasa is, please engage me in your service. Engage me in the service of the Vaishnavas. You, my dear Lord Gauranga, are my master and I am your Ishan, your servant. If you know that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, Sachi Mata was served by Mahaprabhu's very dear associate called as Ishan. In the spiritual world, there exists nothing but rasa, and in the material world, there exists nothing but selfishness. The word self-realization describes a situation whereby one becomes aware of the true self as a spiritual being who is part of the chit potency, by which rasa, the spiritual cognizance intrinsic in pure transcendence, is made possible. So we are Parashakti of the Lord. We are, although Tatastha, we are Prakriti, but we are Para, we are spiritual in constitution. So we are part of the Chit potency. And the Lord is also Chit, completely spiritual, and there is relationship in the form of rasa. And this, Chitta. Chitta means cognizance. Sat Chit Ananda. We know that. Chitta means cognizance. And we are Sat. We are transcendental. We are eternal. So this self-realization is a process. The word self-realization is diametrically opposed to the word selfish, which describes the conditioned jiva as trying to be the lord of the universe. So if we have this tendency to lord over the material universe, that means we are selfish. The word selfish can be divided into two words, one being the word self and the other being ish. Now this is, I don't know, from Sanskrit point of view done, but at least from the English point of view, this makes sense. The self is the part of this word indicates the self as being the center of the universe. And the word ish indicates the self as being the controller or the Ishwar. So we are all here small Ishwars, selfish. That is Ishwar, selfish. I am the center of this universe, Ishwar. That's why when things go wrong, I become disturbed. When pertaining to the conditioned jiva, the word selfish, self-Ishwar, is diametrically opposed to the word Ishan. Ishan means the servant. Ishwar means controller or master, and Ishan means servant. Being very selfish, materialist may dabble in poetry or songs and dream of a situation whereby they engage in loving exchanges, rasa. However, theirs cannot be rasa because at the center of all their poetry is their own enjoyment. This is selfish as opposed to selfless. So poetry, songs, even all the upper sampradayas, they think, we are, discussing very esoteric topics, but they are completely, they think that I am enjoying with Krishna, but, I am enjoyed. Jiva is enjoyed. Enjoyer is Krishna. So to come out of this mentality itself is, many years and lifetimes of tapasya is required to realize this. There can be no possibility of rasa without unconditional love and surrender to the beloved, Vishaya and Ashraya. The Vishaya is Krishna, Ashraya is the devotee. So there is no question of rasa without unconditional love and surrender. So when we love someone, surrender is natural. Materialists do not know the meaning of the word unconditional love. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that rasa is permanent and deals only with bliss, whereas the mundane rasa that the poets and songwriters dabble in is impermanent and deals with happiness and distress. Within the state of unconditional love, one overlooks the aspect of the Supreme as having dominion and control. So this pure Vraj Bhakti or Vraj Prem, there the Aishwarya Jnana of the Lord is not there. As who is Vishnu, is the controller, is Jagadishwar. And the pure unconditional love is Krishna is my lover, Krishna is my friend, Krishna is my, son, like that. So that is pure unconditional love. Even we know in this world also, sometimes, two friends are there in childhood and they have very nice thick friendship. And later on, both, pursue their own goals. And when they grow up, one of the friend becomes a big minister or a big businessman. The other friend is simple, pure. But if they have very deep friendship based on love, the both of them will treat equally. And he'll not treat his friend, oh, he's a big minister or he's a big businessman. They both are very having nice exchanges and dealings, and there is no awe and reverence that, oh, this friend of mine is. So that kind of loving exchange between two friends who had very thick friendship in their childhood, and now they are, one is extremely rich and other is very poor, but because they have that thick relationship of love, friendship and love, the one who is rich also, he feels happy, in that exchange with his friend. He is not treating me like, so that really gives happiness even in this world. So how much Krishna, who is the Ishwar, controller of everything, becomes happy when we treat him in such a pure unconditional love in Vraj Bhakti. Just some idea we are giving. This love is found only in the higher three categories of rasa, why the mercy of the Lord's internal Shakti is covering potency. An intimate associate of Lord Krishna takes Krishna as a very dear friend, a family member, a beloved child, or the most intimate lover. This is what I spoke. On accessing this state, one must receive the mercy of the inhabitants of Rajbhumi and the master of Lord's Chitta Shakti, Sri Nityananda Balaram. So Nityananda is Adi Guru, and he controls the Sandhini potency, and by his mercy only we can come in touch. In fact, the entire material world and the spiritual world is a manifestation of Balram for the pleasure of Krishna. And by only Balram's mercy, we can understand spiritual subjects, we can understand the Dham, we can understand the spiritual world. That's why he's Adi Guru. Shri Harinam Chintamani will clarify how to do this as we progress in this chapter. Okay. Let me see. Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides. Can I take another 10 minutes and finish this, because then we can start from the next verses. We have discussed the 9 and 10 verse also. So it is continuation. Just 4 or 5 slides are there. I will just finish the discussion so that we can next time take the Chit Shakti and all this discussion. So I will just quickly go through them, and if you have questions at the end, I will take. Okay. Shaktiman and Shakti. We discussed these 2 verses from Harinam Chintamani. Let us see some points. The Lord is the supreme potency. He is one, but he has expanded himself into many for the purpose of enjoyment. In this chapter, we learn about the topic of rasa, loving spiritual exchanges. Krishna is known as Rasraj, the king of rasa, Shaktiman, and the jivas are known as the energy of the Lord, Shakti. Vrishabhanandini, Sri Radha, is Sri Krishna, who has expanded himself as the personification of loving exchanges, Ladini. Allad, and from there comes the word Pralad, Prakrishtarupin Allad. Thus, Sri Radha always holds a supremely majestic position. The Lord's potencies expand themselves as the spiritual potency, Chit Shakti, the marginal potency, Jiva Shakti, and the material Maya Shakti. So the Lord has unlimited potencies, but the Vaishnava Acharyas have categorized them into 3. It's not that we have only 3 potencies, internal, external, and marginal. It is unlimited potencies. And then within this, there are again many subdivisions. Being in the marginal category, the jivas are influenced by material nature when their desires lead them to come in contact with matter. To reclaim the lost souls, the Lord descends to the material plane to enact his spiritual pastimes, and in this way the jivas who have descended to the material world may have connection with the spiritual energy via remembrance of these pastimes told in story forms by the great sages. Yada yada dharmasya, that was 4.7 and 8. All items connected to the spiritual, including the service of the Lord's purified messengers, takes place in the spiritual stratum. Devotional service is under the internal energy of the Lord, even though they are enacted in the material plane. Even though it is enacted in the material plane, but it is happening by the spiritual potency of the Lord. Now we are all chanting also. We are all devotees chanting because the spiritual energy by the mercy of the Guru and the Vaishnava is flowing from our heart. That's why we are able to chant Krishna's names, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And we all have experience, or we have seen, when we offend devotees and we commit aparadh, we cannot take the name. So the Shakti, the spiritual energy, is blocked, and we are not able to chant the holy names. Why? Because of aparadhs. So the chanting also, what we are doing now, it's happening by the grace of Guru, Vaishnavas, and the spiritual energy is flowing, and that's why we are able to chant. To access the spiritual energy, known as the Chit Vyapar, is the divine right of every individual. This is our only right. We should not fight for any other rights in this world. We are informed in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord, who is the unification of everything, may be found through the philosophy of Vedanta. As all information is contained within the Srimad Bhagavatam in aphorism, it follows that a study of this literature will yield the fruits one needs to understand the universe and the principles thereof. So the creation of Maya Shakti is discussed. So in the first 5 cantos, how the Lord is with his Maya Shakti, performing his Leela of creation. And then there are in the 10th canto, his pastimes with the Yoga Maya Shakti. So before you discuss about the Yoga Maya Shakti pastimes of the Lord in the 10th canto, we should very much be eager to study the Lord's pastimes with the Maya Shakti. A scientist who does not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the creator, maintainer, and the annihilator of the material can never find the truth beyond the mysteries of life. So that's why scientists can never understand these spiritual subjects. The primary source of evidence to reveal truth is the Vedas, and the purpose of the Vedas is to give knowledge by which one can know God. Vedeshu sarver aham eva vedyo. By the Vedas, I am to be known. In this connection, there is a phrase that is used by the Vedantist, Shruti Pramanam. Shruti means the Vedas, Praman means evidence. Vedic evidence is handed down in the Parampara system from master to disciple. One who has faith in the Vedic literature and literatures in pursuance of Vedic version may accept this information with a gleeful heart, otherwise there is no progressive path out of the darkness of ignorance. In this verse, we are being taught that the Lord is known as Shaktiman, the energetic, and also as Shakti. The Lord is Shakti as well as Shaktiman. The Lord is always independent, energetic controller, and his energy, Shaktis, are threefold. They are known as spiritual, the material, inferior energy, and the marginal. The Antaranga Shakti, the Bhairanga Shakti, and the Tatastha Shakti, or the internal energy and the external energy and the marginal energy, or the superior energy, the inferior energy, and the living beings. Being the part of the Chit energy, the Jiva's natural position is that of the servant of the Lord in the spiritual world. Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. Forgetting this fact, the Jiva is implicated in the material, living, being associated with the inferior material energy. Now the Jiva is caught in the Maya energy. This position is made possible by the blessings of the Lord. As in the natural state, the superior cannot be covered by the inferior. The Jiva is superior energy. How can it be covered by the inferior energy, Maya Shakti? It's only possible because of the Lord's blessings on the Jiva, because the Jiva wants to become the Lord of the world. So this discussion I will not go more in detail, but it is there in the question asked by Parikshit in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter. So how the Jiva, who is a dhatu, a dhatu means he is not with material body, how he gets a dhatu? And this combination, how it happens? It happens only by the inconceivable Shakti of the Lord. Understanding this, one understands that to become free from the tight grip of Maya is only possible by being released on the order of the Supreme Lord, who acts on the sanction of his pure representative Sri Guru. So we are caught up in this tight grip of Maya, and our release is only possible when the Lord orders Maya, release him. When the president comes to the jail, the prisoner can be released. If the president orders the superintendent of the jail is Maya, release him. That's only possible. There's no other way. Please understand this point clearly. The Lord is known as one who is self-manifesting. This means only the Lord can reveal himself. You may not find the Lord on the strength of your own endeavors. There are many statements to quote in the Upanishads. That, there is Svetashar Upanishad which says, Naham Atma Pravachenena, Na Bhav Meda. One cannot understand the Lord by Atma Pravachana or by great intelligence, Bhav Shrutenava, by hearing so many things, Vedic literatures. Only unto one whom I reveal, one can know. That is why Ata Shri Krishnamadi na bhavet graham indriyet. Sevan mukhehi jivvado swayameva spuritada. Swayameva spurita. Lord, when he decides, Swayam, he will manifest in our jiva. The Namacharya will now begin to unfold to you the mysteries behind the Lord, controller, willfully and always independent. How the Lord is a controller and he is always independent. So the next is the Chit potency, the Chit Shakti, which we will discuss in the next coming classes. So Namras, before we go into the Namras, the Tattva is very important. And the Chit Shakti, how it functions, this is what we will be seeing in the next classes. There is the Chitta Shakti, and then there is a Maya Shakti, how it is working, and then the Jiva Shakti. And then all this philosophical discussion is what is going to be the background, So rasa will come when we understand tattva. So the tattva will be given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which has been explained by Haridas Thakur to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll stop here. Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.